'cause I know a name that'll bring them down. I've got a praise waking within my soul, and I'm not ashamed to declare it now. Come on. Light of the world, trample the darkness, nothing can stop it. You are the God of the promise. Every word will be accomplished. Nothing can stop it. You are the God of the promise. Yes, you are. Prepare the way. Prepare the way. The King of Glory comes. Before his name, everything must bow. Throw off your chains, Jesus destroyed them all. Up from the grave, he is with us now. That's right. Light of the world, trample the darkness, nothing can stop it. You are the God of the promise. Every word will be accomplished. Nothing can stop it. You are the God of the promise. Yes, he is. Nothing can stop our God. Amen. Woo. Come on, let's sing this together. The gates of hell will never stand a chance. Lift it up in your room. The gates of hell will never stand a chance. Your name prevails. Jesus, the great I am. No word will fail. No weapon formed against your name prevails. Jesus, the great I am. The gates of hell will never stand a chance. Your name prevails. Jesus, the great I am. No word will fail. No weapon formed against your name prevails. Jesus, the great I am. Light of the world, trample the darkness, nothing can stop it. You are the God of the promise. Every word will be accomplished. Nothing can stop it. You are the God of the promise. God of the promise. Amen. We stand by that truth together today, church. Come on, we've seen him move and we'll see him do it again. Come on.
Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness. you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Oh, your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me yet. You never fail me. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way when there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way when there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way when there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me yet. You never fail.
Amen. He's never failed us yet, he never will. That's the truth we stand behind today, church. Well, we're going to teach you guys. We're all going to learn a new song today, and it speaks on the goodness of God. That's the name of it. And there's so many things that are happening and changing every single day in our world today with this virus going around and just the scare of it all. But, you know, we don't have to live in fear. We know who's in control, and the goodness of God never changes. He's always good, no matter what's going on. So we're going to teach you this song, my friend Casey and I. We're going to teach you the chorus, and we're also going to teach you the bridge. So this is the chorus, and then we'll go straight into the bridge. So it goes like this.
And all my life you have been faithful, and And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
And then the bridge goes like this.
'Cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me.
Just like that. So let's sing of his goodness today, church, as we lift up praise to him. Come on.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. And all my days have been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led us through the fire, and in darkest nights you are close like no other. I've known you as a father, and I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. Oh, yes. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. Yes, with every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running and keeps running after me. Oh, it's running after me. Sing this with me. And all my life you have been faithful.
Yes.
And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am made, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna sing, yeah. faith. God, we thank you for just how good you are, especially in times like now when we really need you and we're really counting on you, God. I pray that you cover the rest of this service. Jesus, I pray that you cover everyone who's watching, God, wherever they are, however they're feeling, whatever they're struggling with, God. I pray that you just remind them you are a good Father and that you already have planned out, Lord, what's going to happen. You already know, and we know that whatever happens, Lord, is going to be from you, and we know it's for our good. We thank you and we love you. In your name we ask, amen.
Well, hello, Rock Church. How's everybody doing? You guys good? So I want to welcome everybody. You can hear I've got a few of my friends joining in with me tonight, some friends, some family members, just to help me welcome you. So, man, if you are watching from your house, from your car, from J. Rubin, wherever it might be, man, thank you for joining in with us during this service. And let's just admit it, this is not normal, right? I mean, we are in unprecedented times. We're at a point that is just different, so we're just having to do church differently. But I am so glad that we have the availability to do this. And I'm so glad that we have the technology to do this. Because if we're to really be honest about this, that we didn't have this technology years ago. So if years ago this would have happened, we would have really been freaking out on how we do church. But because of technology today, we can do church, that we can gather together, and we can experience church digitally. So let me just say a couple things as we dive into this, all right? Especially for those of you who are online watching this in that environment right now, I do want to challenge you. Go into the chat room and just tell us that you're there. Basically, tell us how many people are watching with you. So, if you got 2 people with you, 3, 4, if you've got your whole small group together, whatever it is, just go into that chat room and just tell us how many are there, because we'd love to know that. You don't have to stay in the chat room the whole time if you don't want. If you want to go back to full screen, you can. But we would definitely love to know you're there. And then the other thing we'd challenge you to do is take a picture, like take a selfie with you and service, and then post that later, because we'd love just to celebrate together. Because, well, how to say this, in this time of social distancing, what we don't want to do is be socially isolated. That isolation will lead us down a destructive path. And so we don't want to get isolated even though we are distancing. So when you take that picture and you post it, what you're going to show others is that you are still in community, that you are still connecting with others. So I definitely want to challenge you to make sure you do that as you're watching or after the service or anything like that. And as we talk about this idea of social distancing, as we talk about this idea of social isolation, we want to make sure that everyone knows that you matter. That we want to take a break from our Made for More series, and we want to start this series that we're calling You Matter. It's this idea of saying, hey, you matter. All right, and we want to make sure everybody knows they matter. So again, I would encourage you to let other people know that they matter, because during this time of social distancing, it would be real easy for people to feel like they don't matter. And that's the last thing we want people to feel. You know that one of our major core values as a church is that people matter to God. So we want to help people remember that during this time of crisis. And I've got some groups that I'm especially concerned with, if I can just be honest with you for a moment. That my heart goes out to those who are battling addiction right now, who are walking a life of sobriety. Because if you're in that life, you know that community matters. And you know that you have to stay in contact with your mentors, with your coaches. Like that is a critical element of walking the path of sobriety. So if that's you, I definitely want to make sure you're staying connected to the people that care about you and that you know you matter, and keep walking that path of sobriety. I think about some of our older people who right now, you know that with this virus, you've been told to make sure that you quarantine yourself and be very careful. And I'm concerned because I know when you do that isolation can hit. And you need to do that for your health. You need to do that because it's the best thing to do. But in that, we don't want you to feel isolated. We want you to know that you matter. I think about those who maybe struggle with depression. The last thing that somebody struggling with depression needs to do is isolate themselves, because you know it sends you down a dark path. And I just want to challenge you, if you struggle with depression, or if you know of somebody that struggles with depression, make sure that you are reaching out to them at this time and you're staying in community. Even if you're distancing one another, make sure through text, through FaceTime, through whatever you can means possible, that you don't allow yourself to get isolated. And then I also think about this generation, specifically. Maybe you're watching right now and you're a teenager or you're a young adult, or maybe you're a parent of a teenager or a young adult, that I worry during this time. I don't worry about you from a social media aspect. You all know how to work the social media and stay connected that way in a great way. But I do worry about boredom setting in, and we know sometimes when boredom hits, then bad decisions can be made. That we know when you get out of the habits of being in church community, that it can lead you down the wrong path. And I just want to challenge you, if you are this gen, right now is the time to stay connected with your church more than ever. So make sure you're not just attending church with us digitally, but that you're also connecting with us through all of our social media platforms. Because I want you to know that you matter. That's what this whole series is going to be about. That we're going to spend from now up to Easter, and we're really going to hit this idea that everyone matters to God. And today we're going to hit it from this aspect, and we're going to talk about how the lost matter. Now, when I say the lost, I'm not labeling anybody as one individual. The bottom line is that everybody can raise their hand right now, all right? Go ahead. If you're in one of my friends that is here with me right now, if you're online, go ahead and raise your hand, because here's reality. You're either lost right now or you've been lost at some point in your life. That's the way it is, all of us, all right? This first verse I want to look at, it's from Luke 15. It reads like this. It says, tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. This made the Pharisees and the teachers of the religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them. All right, now I love this verse because, one, it just shows us that we're all sinful people. That each and every one of us, we've all sinned, so we've all been lost. We've all been separated from God at some point. And in this verse, you see the Pharisees and the teachers of the religious laws, they don't feel like they're lost, but they feel like Jesus is really messed up because he's hanging out with notorious sinners. I love that. Because if you think about notorious sinners, what they were basically saying is people that were far from God. And I love this concept that people that were nothing like Jesus loved to hang out with Jesus. They loved it. They wanted to be around him. And Jesus wanted to hang out with people that were maybe nothing like him. That's who he loved. That's who mattered to him. And I want you to know whether you currently do not have a relationship with Jesus, or if you do, that what Jesus wants to do is he wants to be with you. And if that's the case, if Jesus wants to be with us, if he wants to hang out with people that don't know him yet, then this is what it means for the church, that we have to be people that welcome others who don't know Christ into church as often as we possibly can. We have to have wide open arms to welcome people. Because if Jesus is for everyone, then the church is for anyone. You can say amen, okay? You can help me preach a little bit right now for those of you who are with me, all right? That if Jesus is for everyone, then the church is for anyone, which means the church is for you. And I want to spend some time looking at some stories from Jesus as we walk this out. Because he talks about 3 different lost things that he shows that matter to him. It starts with this idea of a lost sheep. Let me read it for you. It says, so Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go and search for the one that he lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he will call together his friends and his neighbors, saying, rejoice with me, because I have found my lost sheep. In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. That I think when we look at this story, what we first really come to understand is that when somebody wanders away from God, that God wants them found, and he wants to throw a party. You see, in the story, there's a shepherd, and he's got 100 sheep, and out of these 100 sheep, he has 99 that are in the pen, but one of them has wandered off. And I learned from a good friend, I call him Farmer Johnson. Some of the people here at our church call him Pastor Scott, but he's a farmer by trade, and he knows all kinds of things about sheep. And he would tell you that sheep are grazers, that they love to just graze, and they look down all the time. And as they're walking and eating all the time, they don't care where they're going as long as there's grass in front of them, and they never look up. So it's easy for a sheep to wander off of the path. And I think that's what we see in this story, is that we see this sheep that has wandered off of the path, and the shepherd, he cares about the 91. He's a shepherd. He cares about the 99, but what he does with the 99 is he puts them in a pen, he takes care of them that way, then he goes and he finds that lost sheep that has wandered off, because he knows when that sheep is in isolation, there is danger. The sheep is in isolation, and because the sheep is in isolation, there is danger and there is fear that sheep might not make it. It reminds me of a story that one time I was traveling, and I was coming from one side of Missouri all the way to Indianapolis, and we were going through St. Louis, and it was just myself and my son Clay. And Clay at the time, he was a young kid, and we were driving, and I wasn't paying attention when I was driving because that's pretty normal for me. And as I was coming through St. Louis, I happened to get on the wrong path, and I just veered into downtown St. Louis rather than continuing on to Indianapolis. And when we got down there, all of a sudden, Clay's like, Daddy, where are we at? And I said, I don't know, we're lost, you know? And in my mind, I wasn't too worried about it because, we just wandered off the path. I'd figure out a way to get back onto the interstate. And a few seconds passed, and then all of a sudden I heard, ah! I was like, Clay, what's wrong? He's like, I'm never going to see my sister again. I was like, bro, we're okay. He's like, yo, you said we're lost. We're on the wrong path. And I was like, yeah. But I'll get us back on the right path. That we had wandered off for a second, but I knew how to get us back in the right direction. And here's what I want to challenge you with right now as church. That during this season, I want to make sure that you don't wander off the path. That I just think it would be easy in this season if we're not careful to wander because we don't have the things that we normally do, and we find ourselves maybe in isolation. And that's the reason I started the whole message talking about we can't be in isolation. We can distance, but we can't be isolated, because if we wander off the path and find ourselves in isolation, then it puts us in a dangerous position. And that's not what I want for you. So what I want to challenge you to do is during this time is to make sure you stay in a rich relationship with God and with others. And here's just some real basic ways that I can help you do that, all right? The first thing I would say is this, that the first thing to do is make sure that you're staying connected through the Rock Reading Plan. That through the Rock Reading Plan, it's on the app, that every day that you can click on that reading plan and you can spend some time with God. I have said this many times before, and I definitely will stick with it today, is that the most important thing you can possibly do in your spiritual walk is personally spend time with God by reading His Word. That I firmly believe that. Like, I love gathering as a church. I already miss it. I miss that community. But the most important thing you can do is make sure you're connecting with God by reading His Word. But then what I'd say is don't leave it just there. Then make sure you're sharing what you've learned with some others so that now you bring in the community aspect. That's the reason just a couple days ago I started every morning now shooting a video of what I've learned through my Connect time. The only reason I am doing that is because, one, I've had my Connect time, but two, I want to share it with others because normally I get to share it with people all day long, and I don't get to do that right now. So I'm trying to share it with you, hoping you'll share back with me so that we can stay in communication that way. You have people in your small group. You have people maybe in a ministry team. You have people in your house. Share what you're reading. But don't just stop there. There's other things I want to challenge you to do. Obviously, make sure that you stay coming to church. I know it's in a digital space, but make sure that you keep coming to church. Whether that's Thursday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night, make sure that at every service you're at least at one of them throughout the weekend. And then third, I would challenge you, we have tons of digital content going out. Our staff is working hard at just producing digital content so that you guys can have conversation pieces. There's stuff for your kids, there's stuff for teenagers, there's stuff for adults, so just make sure that you stay connected through all of our online platforms, from YouTube to our app, to our Facebook page, to our website, things of that nature. So we're doing that because we don't want you to wander off. We don't want you to find yourself in isolation. We want you to stay in community. And my job as a shepherd, and our pastors' jobs as shepherds, and our team leaders and coaches' jobs as shepherd is to make sure that we're not letting anybody wander off. So we want to do everything we can to keep everybody in that fold so that we can just keep on celebrating what God is doing in your life. So that's one thing that we see in this story about the lost sheep. But there's another story, and the next story is a story about a lost coin. And it reads like this. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep the entire house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she will call in her friends and her neighbors and say, "Rejoice with me because I have found my lost coin." That here's a lady that has lost a coin that is very valuable to her. That this coin could have monetary value, or this coin could have a sentimental value, but some way or another there's value in this coin. And look what she has done. It's right here on the screen. She loses it. The coin didn't get lost. The coin didn't wander off. No, she lost the coin. She lost something that was extremely valuable to her. And because she lost something that was extremely valuable, what she did is she searched the entire house over. That she started sweeping it. She lit a lamp. She said, "I've got to find my lost coin," because that coin has extreme value, and she was willing to do whatever it took to find that coin. Which then reminds me of another story. It was a time that my family, we were vacationing in Las Vegas. And while we were there, we were out at the pool, and we were all coming in from the pool, and we were headed towards the elevator. And my kids at that point, Tate and Abby, they were probably 3, maybe 4 years old. I'm not for sure exactly how old, but they were walking in front of us, and everything was fine. And then they saw the elevator, and I could see they started kind of just fussing a little bit about who was going to get to hit that button, because when it comes to the elevator and you're a little kid, that's all that matters is who gets to hit the button. So then they started running ahead of us. Now, at first I wasn't concerned because the door wasn't open and they weren't that far in front of us, but then all of a sudden the elevator doors opened, and rather hit that button, the outdoor button, they jumped inside to hit the indoor button, and as soon as they got inside, the doors closed. Now, you can imagine as dad and as mom, we started freaking out. Mom immediately jumped on the elevator and she's like, I'm going to every floor to find them. I'm calling security. I'm working to try to figure it out. Eventually, Krista found them on about the 20th floor. And when she found them, the door opened and they were sitting in the middle of the little elevator area, lobby area, and there was an older lady with her arms around them as they were crying. And Mom came out and she's like, babies, babies. And all of a sudden you hear this older lady saying, shh, see, I told you, I knew someone would come. And that lady ended up telling Krista the story that she was in her room and her door happened to be open and she saw these little kids run by. She heard the door knock. They heard a man say, I don't know who you are, get away. So she knew something was up, so she came out and got them because it was at that point that they went from just having a fun time running through the halls to now they're crying because they realize they're lost. And what Krista did is she went after them because she had to find our kids. Why? Because they matter. And they have value. And guys, let me just speak into this for a second. That we are in unprecedented times. And there are people all around you that matter to God. And what they need is someone who will point them to Jesus. They need somebody that will show them who Christ is. And what you can do, if you have a relationship with Christ, you're watching right now, then what you can do is you can invite them to church with you. That you can invite them to experience church with you. Maybe at the next session that we're running or maybe next weekend, but you can invite them. And here's the cool thing. There's no more excuses. I want you to think about this for a second. Like, we don't have any more excuses for not going to church. One of the biggest excuses people always give is, I'm too busy. No, you're not. You ain't busy right now. That you got all kinds of time. Practice has been canceled. Restaurants are closed. The movie theater's closed. Like, you got all the time in the world. So they're not too busy. Well, if I come in, people will judge me. Nope, because no one's going to see you. Well, I don't have anything to wear. It doesn't matter. You want to watch church naked? Have at it. Nobody knows. Every excuse in the book is off the table. So you can look at your friend. You can talk to your family member who's in the house with you and say, hey, do me a favor. Come to church with me. You don't even have to get in your car. You don't have to get dressed. You can just grab a cup of coffee and sit and watch and experience it. Because they matter. And right now you have an opportunity to go after those who are lost. Those who maybe you've had an opportunity to in the past and maybe you've missed it. Take the opportunity now and search for them through the entire place and find them and bring them so that they can rejoice, so that God can rejoice that they've been found as well. That's a challenge that we understand, that sometimes people are lost because they wander away. Sometimes people are lost because maybe they fall through the cracks or because maybe we misplace. But other times, reason that people are lost is because they've walked away. And maybe that's you right now. Maybe you've walked away. And this next story talks about that. It says this. To illustrate this point further, Jesus told them this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, I want my share of the estate now before you die. So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. And then the story goes on. It says that then the youngest son took his wealth, took his inheritance and everything he had, and he set off for a distant country where he squandered all of his wealth on wild living. But then soon a famine came through the land, and the guy found himself living in want. So he hired himself out to a local farmer who sent him out into the fields to work with the pigs. And it says that he longed to eat what the pigs were eating, the pods that the pigs were eating, yet no one would give him anything to eat. And one day while he was laying there, it says that he started thinking, my father has servants back home. And his servants have more to eat than I have and plenty left over. So I need to get up and I need to go home and I need to say to my father, I've sinned against heaven and against earth. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son, but please make me like one of your servants. And I think about this young son living in that situation, and I often wonder if maybe that's right where we're at right now. That maybe we've just been living life, and maybe everything was just going the direction that we thought it was supposed to go, and then all of a sudden, there's a crash. All of a sudden, you find yourself in isolation. All of a sudden, you find yourself in the midst of a crisis. A crisis maybe has come because of the virus, or maybe it's come as an effect of the virus, and maybe your job is lost, maybe there's illness, whatever it might be, and you just find yourself in the midst of a crisis, and you're just like, man, there's got to be some hope out there. There's got to be some hope that is available. And you start thinking, well, maybe if I was to turn towards God, maybe that's even why you're watching right now, because somebody invited you, and you're just like, there's got to be some hope. I got to find some hope. And maybe you're at that place where you're just like, man, is it possible for me to return to God? Is it possible for me to get back in a relationship with God? And maybe you find yourself just like this young son. I remember a time when I was a young son that I left the ball field and I decided to walk through the woods to get to my house. I wasn't supposed to. My parents told me to wait at the ball field till they came home, or until they came back to get me, but it was practice ended early and they weren't there, so I thought, well, I can just walk through this woods because I think my house is on the other side of the woods. Understand, I'm a young elementary student at this point, probably first or second grade. There's no reason I should have ever done this, but I thought, I think my house is just on the other side of the woods, so I'll walk through this woods and surely I'll get there. So I started walking through the woods, and as I started walking through the woods, it started getting darker and darker, and now all of a sudden fear set in because I was like, I'm never going to make it home. I'm lost. I don't know what to do. So then I started running, and as I was running through the woods, kind of dodging the trees, all of a sudden I ran into one. Landed on my back, but what I found out is it wasn't a tree standing in front of me. It was actually a man. And no joke, I'm not making this up. This man looked at me and he said, "What are you doing here, little boy?" I said, "I'm just trying to go home," with tears and fear. He said, "You better get out of here." So then I took off again, and fortunately, I broke through the other side of the woods, and fortunately, again, it was close to my house, so I got home. And when I started going through the yard, all of a sudden, my mom ran out yelling, "Where have you been?" Not in anger, but in tears. And when she got to me, she just wrapped her arms around me and hugged me and hugged me and hugged me until she got the belt. Then she whooped my butt. And I deserved it. But I want to say this. God responds like my mom responded. When you turn and run home, He's looking for you. See, the young son in the story, it says that he got up. And when he got up, he took off for home. And as he was getting close to home, his dad was watching for him. And when his dad saw him, he ran to his son and he wrapped his arms around his son. And his son started to say, Dad, I'm sorry. I've sinned against heaven. I've sinned against earth. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me a servant. And the dad was just like, shh. We got no time for that. My son is home. He's returned. Let's throw a party. Let's throw a party. And I want you to know right now that if you're looking for hope, if you're looking for the goodness of God, if you're looking for something that can take care of you in the midst of where you find yourself right now, then my challenge is turn to God. Because the moment you turn to God, He will have already closed the distance. And He will be right there with His arms outstretched, wanting to wrap His arms around you and say, welcome home. That's what He wants to say to you. That's what He said. That's what the dad said to the young son, and that's what God will say to you. Because you matter to God. So welcome home. And with that, let's move into a time of response. And let's just go home to God. Let's go home and spend some time with Jesus. And I know you're sitting at home or maybe with your small group or maybe at the coffee bar, wherever you might be. Let me just say it this way. because there's a couple response pieces you can do right now. I know that normally we come up front, we take communion, we pray, we do some stuff up front, and obviously we can't do that. But you can still respond to the gospel message right now. And here's the way I would like to challenge you to respond. Is the first thing I'd say is respond by making a commitment not to go into isolation. Make a commitment to say, I am not going to wander off the path. That I'm going to stay committed to spending time with the Lord through the daily reading plan. I'm going to be committed to attending church digitally. I'm going to be committed to connecting with others in those platforms. You can make that commitment right now, right where you're at. Secondly, I want to challenge you to make a commitment to reach out to those that you know who don't know the Lord right now. That again, I think maybe at one of the most critical times in the history of our lives, we have the opportunity, we have the availability to invite somebody to church on their level. So take advantage of it. Don't miss this. Make a commitment right now. Maybe pull out your phone and send a text. Maybe make a note and say, these are the 5 people I'm going to invite this week. Make a commitment. And then third, I would say this. It's kind of a two-prong approach. One, if you know God, if you know Christ, then make a commitment to welcome people home. That when people, maybe it's your friend who you invited to church, welcome them home when they take that step with Christ and walk alongside of them and party with them. Don't be like an older brother in the story that I didn't get to who wasn't willing to welcome the younger brother home. No, you make a commitment to welcome people home. But maybe for you, the commitment is to simply come home. And if that is your commitment, then I want you to do it right now. I want you to do it right now while we are doing church together. I want you to say a prayer, and I want you to come home. And I know this might seem weird. You know, I'm not a TV evangelist. I'm not going to say put your hand on the screen. I'm not going to do anything like that. But God is with us right now. I know that. And I know the Holy Spirit is working right now. So if you need to respond to Jesus, then I'm going to invite you to say a prayer with me. I'm going to invite all of us to pray together, but especially for those of you who don't know Christ, I'm going to invite you to say this prayer with me, a prayer that is very simple. And it's a prayer that we see the young son doing where he said, I've sinned against heaven and against earth. Say, I've sinned, and I want to come back to you, Father. And I want you to say that prayer as I say it, if you believe it. So do me a favor right now, wherever you're at, let's just bow our heads and let's just pray. And I want to challenge you to respond to Christ. Pray this prayer. Jesus, I know that I have sinned, and I need your grace. Please forgive me and welcome me home. Now, I want you to know if you prayed that prayer, then Christ, He has forgiven you. And He welcomes you home with open arms. And Jesus, I pray for all of us to be making the commitments right now that we need to make. Help us to follow you and to be committed to you. In your name. You know, we're getting ready to go back into a time of worship, and I want to encourage you to keep worshiping with us. But I do want to say this also. If you said that prayer and you responded to Christ's gift of grace, then I want to make sure that you, one, tell a host, maybe go in the chat room and say that I've done that. But I want to give you another step to do, and I want to challenge you to get baptized. Every week here at The Rock, people get baptized. Every week. And I'm not going to let the coronavirus stop people from getting baptized. That our baptistry is open all the time. There's enough chemicals in there to kill anything, okay? I am here at this church every day. I'm either here at this box or I'm at the coffee bar. And if you want to take the step of baptism, then you can come and either myself or one of our pastors, we will make that happen. Or if you live locally, you got a pool in your backyard, we'll come to you. Because we're not going to let this virus stop you from making that step with Christ. So you do what you need to do. But as we continue on with our service, let's worship and let's thank God for His goodness. I love you all. Let's worship a little bit more.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. And all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, and in darkest nights you were close like no other. I've known you as a father, and I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, of the goodness of God. Oh, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Oh, it's running. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running and keeps running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing. And all my life you have been faithful. goodness of God. Your goodness is running, God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running, it keeps running after me. It's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am made, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna sing, yes. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good, yes. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God, yes. I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God.
Yes, Jesus. It's your goodness. It's your kindness that leads us to repentance. Thankful today. It's your breath in our lungs and not our own. I love you, Jesus. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you. Oh, just lift that up wherever you are. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Oh, the earth will shout your praise, our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Oh, the earth will shout your praise, our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Oh, the earth, for the earth will shout your praise, our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. One more time. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These songs will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Sing it again. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. To you only. Let's just sing that chorus one more time. It's your breath. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you.